Welcome to Stories of Sleep. It's lovely to have you here. Before we begin, I'd love to know where in the world are you watching from tonight? A quiet bedroom with the curtains drawn, a cozy corner with a blanket pulled close. Perhaps somewhere far from home where sleep feels like a distant friend. Wherever you are, I hope you're comfortable, safe, and ready to gently drift into thought. If you enjoy these relaxing explorations and would like to hear more, a like and subscribe really helps this sleepy little channel float along. And to those of you already subscribed, thank you. Truly, your support means more than you know. Now, tonight we're going to explore something rather fitting for a sleep video. We're going to talk about dreamers, not the kind who imagine futures or chase ambitions, but three ancient beings who chose to sleep forever so that others might live. Three souls who surrendered their waking lives, their consciousness, their very selves to maintain a seal against a god. In the world of Hollow Knight, they are known simply as the Dreamers, Monomon the Teacher, Lurian the Watcher, and Hera the Beast. And their story is one of sacrifice, devotion, and the quiet tragedy of eternal slumber. I'll try not to make tonight's topic so interesting that it keeps you wide awake, but if it does, at least you'll have a better understanding of why some beings choose to dream forever and what it costs to hold back the light of a furious god. A small price to pay for a restless night. So, let's begin, shall we? The kingdom before the fall. To understand the Dreamers, we must first understand the world they gave themselves to protect. Hallownest was not always a kingdom of ruins and silence. Once, it was a civilization of unprecedented achievement, a realm carved from living rock and illuminated by the pale light of a god who had chosen to make it his home. The Pale King arrived from somewhere beyond the borders of what would become Hallownest. He was a worm, a creature of immense size and ancient power, and when he came to this land, he shed his massive form. He transformed himself into something smaller, something that could think and plan and build. His cast-off shell still lies in Kingdom's Edge, a monument to what he sacrificed to become what he chose to be. But the Pale King brought more than his presence, he brought awakening. Before his arrival, the bugs of this land were simple creatures, driven by instinct, living and dying without the burden of thought. The Pale King's light changed that. It touched their minds and kindled something new. Consciousness, awareness, the ability to think, to question, to dream their own dreams. Under his guidance, Hallownest rose from nothing into a civilization of remarkable sophistication. Cities were carved into the earth, roads connected distant regions, art and science flourished. The bugs of Hallownest built temples and archives, developed systems of government and commerce, created beauty in forms that would endure for ages. It was a golden age, a time when it seemed that progress would continue forever, that the kingdom would stand eternal under the Pale King's watchful gaze. But the Pale King had made an enemy simply by existing. Let your breathing slow as you consider this ancient kingdom, this civilization built on awakened minds and pale light. It rose so high, achieved so much, and yet it carried within it the seeds of its own destruction. Not through any fault of its own, but because consciousness itself had a price, and that price would come due in ways no one could have predicted. The radiance and the infection. Before the Pale King, before Hallownest, before the awakening of bug kind, there was another light in this land. The radiance was a moth goddess, ancient and blazing, whose worship had once encompassed all the creatures who would later become the citizens of Hallownest. Her light was not the cool, intellectual illumination of the Pale King. It was something warmer, more consuming, more absolute. The radiance offered connection. Her light linked the minds of those who accepted it, creating a shared consciousness, a collective dream in which no one was ever alone. The moths who served her existed as extensions of her will, and in that existence they found a kind of peace. They were never lost, never uncertain, never burdened by the weight of individual choice. They simply were together in her eternal glow. When the Pale King arrived and began awakening bugs to individual consciousness, the moths faced a choice. They could remain in the Radiance's light, part of her eternal dream, or they could accept the Pale King's gift and become themselves, separate, alone, but free. One by one, they chose freedom. One by one, they forgot the goddess who had sustained them for eons, and as they forgot, the radiance began to fade. For a being like the Radiance, being forgotten is not merely painful, it is existential. Her power was tied to worship, to remembrance, to the minds that held her image. As those minds turned elsewhere, she diminished. Her light grew dimmer, her presence grew weaker, her very existence was threatened by the simple act of being ignored. She did not go quietly. The infection began as whispers in dreams, strange thoughts that didn't quite belong, a creeping orange glow at the edges of consciousness. The bugs of Hallownest didn't understand what was happening at first. They only knew that something was wrong, that their minds were no longer entirely their own, that a foreign presence was growing within them like a tumour made of light. The infected changed. Their eyes took on an orange luminescence. Their movements became erratic, violent. They attacked friends and family, driven by impulses they couldn't understand or control. Those fully consumed became husks, their individual identities burned away by the Radiance's brilliance, leaving only shells that moved and fought in service of a god they had tried to forget. The Pale King watched his kingdom begin to crumble. Everything he had built, everything he had sacrificed for, was being destroyed by a force he couldn't fight with armies or walls or laws. The Radiance was attacking through dreams, through the very consciousness he had given his subjects. Against such an assault, conventional defences were useless. He needed a different kind of solution. He needed something that could contain a god. Let your eyes grow heavy as you consider this conflict between two kinds of light. The Pale King's cool illumination of individual thought, the Radiance's blazing warmth of collective consciousness. Neither was evil, neither was wrong. They were simply incompatible, two visions of existence that could not share the same space, and caught between them were the bugs of Hallownest, awakened to consciousness just in time to watch their world begin to burn. The desperate plan. The Pale King was many things: brilliant, ruthless, desperate. When he realized that the Radiance could not be defeated through conventional means, he turned his mind to unconventional ones. He studied the void, that ancient darkness that pooled in the abyss beneath his kingdom. He learned its properties, its potential, its terrible emptiness. The void was the antithesis of the Radiance in every way. Where she was light, it was darkness. Where she was consciousness and connection, it was emptiness and isolation. Where she burned with thought and dream and will, the void simply wasn't. It had no mind for the Radiance to touch, no dreams for her to corrupt, no self for her to consume. This was the key. If the Pale King could create a being of pure void, a creature without thought or will or identity, that being could contain the Radiance. It could seal her away, trap her light within its emptiness, end the infection by imprisoning its source. And so the vessels were born. Children of the Pale King and the White Lady, cast into the abyss to be filled with void, designed to be hollow, empty, without self. Thousands of them, created and discarded, tested and found wanting. Most showed some trace of consciousness, some hint of will, some spark of self that would make them vulnerable to the radiance. These were failures. These were cast back into the darkness. But one seemed perfect. One climbed from the void sea and looked up at the Pale King with eyes that held nothing. No recognition, no curiosity, no hope, no fear. It was empty. It was hollow. It was exactly what the Pale King needed. This vessel was chosen. It was taken from the abyss, raised in the White Palace, trained for its purpose. It would become the Hollow Knight, the pure vessel, the container that would seal away the radiance and save Hallownest. But a container alone was not enough. The radiance was a god, ancient and powerful, and even a perfect vessel might not hold her forever. The Pale King needed additional safeguards. He needed seals that would reinforce the containment, barriers that would prevent anyone from reaching the Hollow Knight and potentially releasing the god trapped within. He needed dreamers. The nature of the seals, the sealing of the radiance, was not a simple act. It was a complex magical working that required multiple components, multiple sacrifices, multiple beings willing to give everything for the sake of the kingdom. The Hollow Knight would serve as the primary container, the vessel that would hold the radiance's essence. But around that container, the Pale King constructed additional layers of protection. 3 seals, 3 barriers, 3 minds locked in eternal sleep, their dreams forming walls that would keep the Black Egg Temple closed. This would prevent anyone from reaching the Hollow Knight, that would maintain the containment even if the primary vessel began to weaken. These seals required something specific. They required consciousness. They required minds capable of dreaming, of maintaining a sustained mental state that could serve as a barrier. They required beings willing to surrender their waking lives to enter a sleep from which they would never wake, to dream forever in service of a cause larger than themselves. The Pale King found 3 such beings, 3 individuals who, for their own reasons, agreed to become dreamers, 3 souls who would give up everything they were for the chance to save everything they loved. Monomon the teacher, Lurian the watcher, Hera the beast. Each came from a different part of Hallownest. Each had their own motivations, their own reasons for accepting this terrible honour. Each would sleep in their own location, their dreams forming 1/3 of the seal that kept the radiance contained. Let your body grow heavier as you consider what it means to choose eternal sleep. Not death, which at least offers an ending. Not life, which offers change and growth and possibility. But something in between. A suspension. A pause that never ends. The dreamers chose this fate willingly, knowing they would never wake, knowing they would dream forever in the service of a kingdom that might forget them. And yet, they chose it anyway, because some things are worth more than waking. Some causes are worth more than consciousness. Some loves are worth more than life itself. Monomon the teacher. Of the 3 dreamers, Monomon is perhaps the most intellectually driven. She was the head of the Teacher's Archives, a vast repository of learning located in the Fog Canyon, where acid pools shimmer with an eerie green glow, and strange jellyfish-like creatures called Umas drift through misty air. The fog canyon itself feels like a place suspended between states, neither fully liquid nor fully air, a fitting home for a being devoted to understanding the spaces between things. The archives are remarkable even in ruin. Sealed tubes contain preserved texts and specimens, protected from the acid that would dissolve ordinary materials. Monomon designed these containers herself, anticipating that knowledge might need to survive catastrophe. Walking through her domain, you sense a mind that thought in centuries, that planned for futures she might never see. Monomon's appearance reflects her nature. She is a jellyfish-like being, soft and translucent, floating in a tank of preserved fluid. Her body pulses gently, even in sleep, as though her thoughts continue to flow through her form. She wears a mask that covers what might be her face, though with Monomon, the distinction between face and mind seems almost irrelevant. She is thought given form, understanding made flesh. The Pale King valued Monomon highly. She was not merely a scholar, but a researcher, someone who helped him understand the void, the nature of soul, the mechanics of the ceiling itself. Her tablet, found in the archives, speaks of her role. Through dream I travel at lantern's call, to consume the light that plagues their dreams. She understood what she was agreeing to, understood the theory behind the ceiling, understood perhaps better than anyone except the Pale King himself why it might work. But Monomon also understood why it might fail. She had a student named Quirrell, devoted to her in a way that went beyond academic respect. Before entering her eternal sleep, Monomon entrusted him with her mask. This was not sentiment. The mask carried power, carried memory, carried something of Monomon herself. It would preserve Quirrell through the long years, keeping him alive, keeping him connected to his teacher until the time came when he might be needed. The mask also suppressed Quirrell's memories. He wandered beyond Hallownest, forgetting who he was, forgetting why he carried the strange artifact on his back. This was deliberate. Monomon knew that the full weight of knowledge, the understanding of what had happened to Hallownest, might be too much to bear across centuries of waiting. She gave Quirrell preservation, but she also gave him the mercy of forgetting. Unlike the other dreamers, Monomon left a way to break her seal. She anticipated that the sealing might not be permanent, that the hollow night might weaken, that someone might need to finish what the Pale King had started. In her archive, she left Quirrell's mask as a key. When he returned, when he stood before her sleeping form, the mask would allow access to her dream. She planned her own ending as carefully as she planned everything else. To reach Monomon, the knight must first defeat Umu, a massive jellyfish creature that guards her chamber. Umu is protected by an electric membrane that the knight cannot penetrate alone, but Quirrell appears, drawn back to his teacher's side, and together they break through the Guardian's defences. This collaboration is Monomon's final lesson, that knowledge is not meant to be hoarded, that understanding grows through sharing, that even the breaking of seals can be an act of teaching. Let your thoughts drift like the umas that float through Fog Canyon, gentle and unhurried, pulsing softly in the misty air. Monomon chose to dream forever so that others might continue to learn, but she also chose to make her dream accessible, to leave a door that could be opened, to trust that whoever came after would know when the time was right to wake her, even if waking meant ending. Lurian the Watcher. If Monomon represents the pursuit of knowledge, Lurian represents devotion in its purest form. He was the watcher of the City of Tears, the great urban centre of Hallownest where rain falls eternally from the blue lake above, pattering against windows and pooling in streets that gleam like mirrors. From his spire, the tallest structure in the city, Lurian observed everything. The spire rises impossibly high, a needle of pale stone piercing the cavern ceiling, its windows facing outward in every direction. From here, nothing in the city escaped his gaze. He watched the citizens go about their lives. He watched the shops and the homes and the grand buildings. He watched, and in watching, he served. Lurian's form is unusual among the bugs of Hallownest. He appears almost like a single great eye, his body dominated by the organ of sight that defined his purpose. His mask, when you see it on the Black Egg Temple's seal, is a single vertical slit, an eye forever open, forever watching. Even his name suggests vision, vigilance, the act of seeing as a form of being. His tablet reads, "Lurian the Watcher, who sees all." Simple words, but they capture everything about him. He did not rule the city. He did not command its citizens. He simply watched, and in that watching he protected. His vigilance was a shield, his attention a form of care. Lurian's loyalty to the Pale King was absolute. His dream dialogue, accessible through the dream nail, reveals the depth of this devotion. For the king, I'd give my all. Not for the kingdom, not for the citizens, for the king himself. Lurian had found someone worthy of his complete dedication, and he gave it without reservation. When the Pale King asked him to become a dreamer, Lurian agreed immediately. No negotiation, no conditions. His king had asked, and that was enough. This might seem like blind obedience, but there is also something beautiful in it. Lurian had certainty in a world of uncertainty. He knew what he valued. He knew what he would give everything for. The spire still stands, and inside, Lurian sleeps. But he is not alone. A single butler has remained faithful through all the centuries since the sealing. This elderly servant still tends the chambers, still maintains the space, still serves a master who will never wake to acknowledge him. When you climb the spire, you find him there, patient and quiet, waiting as Lurian waits. Before reaching Lurian, the knight must face the Watcher Knights, elite guards who protect their lord even in his endless sleep. These armoured warriors patrol the upper chambers, their movements mechanical but their purpose clear. They serve Lurian as Lurian serves the king, a chain of devotion that persists even when its object has become unreachable. When the knight finally reaches Lurian's chamber, the butler does not fight. He steps aside, perhaps understanding that his master's long watch is ending, that the devotion Lurian gave is being honoured in the only way it can be, by being completed. Let your eyes grow heavy as you consider Lurian's devotion, the peace that comes from certainty, the comfort of knowing exactly what you value and what you would give for it. Lurian never wondered what his life meant. He knew, he watched, and in watching, he found a purpose that transcended his own existence, that continued even in sleep, that persists even now in the memory of those who learn his story. Hera, the beast, the third dreamer, is different from the other two. Where Monomon sought knowledge and Lurian sought service, Hera sought something far more personal. She sought a child. Hera was the queen of Deepnest, a dark and dangerous region of Hallownest, where spiders and other predatory creatures made their home. Deepnest was not part of the Pale King's kingdom in the same way that other regions were. It was allied, perhaps, but never truly conquered. The creatures of deepness were too fierce, too independent, too unwilling to bend to any authority but their own. Hera ruled this realm with strength and cunning. She was called the Beast, not as an insult, but as a recognition of her power, her ferocity, her willingness to do whatever was necessary to protect her people. She was a leader in the truest sense, someone who put her subjects' welfare above her own comfort, who fought for deepness' independence, even as she negotiated with the kingdom above. When the Pale King came to her with his request, Hera saw an opportunity. She would agree to become a dreamer, would give up her waking life to maintain the seal, but in exchange, she wanted something. She wanted a child. The Pale King agreed. From their union, a daughter was born. Hornet, half spider, half higher being, a child who would carry the legacy of both her parents into whatever future awaited. This bargain reveals something important about Hera. She was not motivated by abstract ideals like knowledge or devotion. She was motivated by love, by the desire to create something that would outlast her, to leave behind a legacy that was not just political, but personal. She wanted a child, and she was willing to pay any price to have one. Some might see this as selfish. After all, Hera agreed to the sealing not out of concern for Hallownest, but out of desire for her own offspring. But there is another way to see it. Hera understood that she would sleep forever, that she would never see her daughter grow up, never teach her, never hold her again after those first brief moments. She made this sacrifice anyway, because the existence of her child was worth more to her than her own consciousness. This is a different kind of love than Lurian's devotion, or Monomon's intellectual commitment. It is fiercer, more primal, more willing to accept loss in exchange for creation. Hera gave up everything she was so that Hornet could be. And in that giving, she demonstrated a love so powerful that it transcended even the boundaries of sleep and waking. Hornet grew up without her mother. She was raised in Deepnest, trained as a warrior, taught to protect the kingdom that her mother had helped to seal. She carries her mother's legacy in every movement, every decision, every moment of fierce determination. When she fights with Hera's strength. When she protects with Hera's love. Hera sleeps in the heart of Deepnest, in a chamber guarded by the creatures who still honor their queen. Her dreams are dreams of her daughter, perhaps. Dreams of the child she created and never knew. Dreams of what Hornet might become, of the future she purchased with her eternal sleep. Let your body sink deeper into rest as you consider Hera's sacrifice. She gave up consciousness for creation, gave up her own future for her daughter's existence. There is something profound in that exchange, something that speaks to the deepest instincts of parenthood, the willingness to give everything so that something new might live. The Black Egg Temple. The three dreamers sleep in their separate locations, but their dreams converge on a single point. The Black Egg Temple, located in the Forgotten Crossroads, is where the Hollow Night is sealed. It is a structure built specifically for containment, designed to hold a god and prevent her escape. The temple is not large, but it is significant. Its dark walls pulse with a kind of anti-light, a darkness that seems to absorb rather than reflect. The entrance is sealed by the combined dreams of the three dreamers, their sleeping minds forming barriers that cannot be passed by ordinary means. Inside the temple, the Hollow Night hangs in chains. It has been there for centuries, perhaps longer, holding the radiance within its hollow shell. The ceiling was supposed to be permanent. The hollow night was supposed to be perfect. The dreamers were supposed to sleep forever, their dreams maintaining the barriers that kept the infection contained. But nothing is truly permanent. Nothing is truly perfect. And forever is a very long time. The hollow night was not as hollow as the Pale King believed. Deep within its shell, hidden even from itself, was a tiny spark of consciousness, a whisper of will, a trace of self. It loved its father. It wanted to succeed. It felt pride in its purpose and fear of failure. These feelings were buried so deep that the hollow night itself didn't know they existed. But the radiance found them. Through that tiny crack, that minuscule flaw in the vessel's emptiness, the radiance worked. Year after year, century after century, she pressed against the walls of her prison. She exploited the hollow night's hidden self, used its buried emotions as a foothold. Slowly, imperceptibly, she eroded the containment. The infection began to spread again. Not as quickly as before, not as dramatically, but spreading nonetheless. The dreamers continued to sleep, their seals still holding, but the primary containment was weakening. The hollow night was failing, and the dreamers could do nothing. They were asleep, locked in their eternal dreams, unable to respond to the changing situation. They had given everything they had, and it was not enough. The seal they maintained was still intact, but the vessel they protected was cracking. This is the tragedy of the dreamers. They sacrificed their waking lives for a solution that was already flawed. They entered eternal sleep to protect a containment that was already compromised. They gave everything, and it was not enough, because the Pale King's plan was built on a foundation that could not hold. Let your thoughts settle like dust in an ancient temple as you consider this tragedy. The dreamers did everything right. They made their sacrifices willingly, maintained their seals faithfully, dreamed their eternal dreams without complaint, and still the infection spread, still the kingdom fell, still the radiance pressed against her prison, waiting for the moment when she could break free. Sometimes sacrifice is not enough. Sometimes the best intentions lead to failure. Sometimes we give everything we have and still lose. This is not a comfortable truth, but it is a truth nonetheless. And in accepting it, perhaps we find a different kind of peace. The peace of knowing that we did what we could, even if what we could do was not enough. The nature of dreaming. What does it mean to dream forever? The dreamers entered a state that is neither life nor death, neither consciousness nor oblivion. They exist in a space between, a liminal realm where time moves differently, where the boundaries between self and other become fluid, where the mind creates its own reality. In the world of Hollow Night, dreams are not merely mental phenomena, they are places. The dream realm is a dimension that exists alongside the physical world, accessible through certain tools and abilities, inhabited by beings who exist only in the sleeping minds of others. The Radiance herself is a creature of dreams, a goddess whose power flows through the unconscious minds of those who remember her. The dreamers exist in this realm. Their bodies sleep in the physical world, maintained by whatever magic or biology keeps them alive, but their minds have migrated elsewhere. They dream, and in dreaming, they create the barriers that seal the Black Egg Temple. What do they dream of? The game never tells us directly, but we can imagine. Monomon might dream of her archives, of endless shelves of knowledge, of students who come to learn and leave enlightened. Her dreams might be lectures that never end, discoveries that unfold forever, the pure joy of understanding something new. Lurian might dream of watching, of standing at his window and observing a city that never changes, where the rain falls eternally and the citizens go about their peaceful lives. His dreams might be a perfect version of the city of tears, untouched by infection, unmarred by decay, forever worthy of his vigilance. Hera might dream of her daughter, of watching Hornet grow up, of teaching her to hunt and fight and lead. Her dreams might be the life she never got to live, the motherhood she sacrificed for the chance to create a child at all. Or perhaps their dreams are stranger than that. Perhaps after centuries of sleeping, the dreamers' minds have drifted into territories that no waking consciousness could comprehend. Perhaps they dream of colours that don't exist, of sounds that have no source, of experiences that transcend the categories of ordinary thought. The dream realm is not bound by the rules of physical reality. Time flows differently there. Space is malleable. Identity is fluid. The dreamers might have become something other than what they were, transformed by centuries of dreaming into beings that bear little resemblance to the individuals who first closed their eyes. This is one of the most haunting aspects of their sacrifice. They didn't just give up their waking lives. They gave up their selves, their identities, their continuity as individuals. The Monomon who entered eternal sleep is not necessarily the same Monomon who dreams now. Centuries of dreaming might have changed her in ways that cannot be undone. And yet the seals hold. Whatever the dreamers have become, whatever their dreams have transformed them into, they still serve their purpose. Their sleeping minds still form the barriers that keep the Black Egg Temple closed. Their sacrifice still matters, even if the beings who made it no longer exist in any recognizable form. Let your mind drift as you consider the nature of dreaming, the way sleep transforms us, the way our unconscious minds create worlds that our waking selves can barely remember. Every night, you enter a realm not unlike the one the dreamers inhabit. Every night you become something other than your waking self, experiencing things that feel real in the moment but fade upon waking. The difference is that you wake up. The dreamers never will. The night's arrival. The night enters Hallownest, drawn by forces it doesn't understand. It is a vessel, one of the discarded children of the Pale King, a being that was deemed too flawed to serve as the primary container for the radiance. It should have died in the abyss with its countless siblings. Instead, it climbed out, escaped the kingdom, wandered the wastelands beyond for years or decades, and then returned. Why did it return? The game never explains. Perhaps it was the weakening of the seals, some signal that only vessels could hear. Perhaps it was the void itself, recognizing that its champion was failing and summoning a replacement. Perhaps it was simply fate, the random movements of a hollow being that happened to lead it home. Whatever the reason, the night arrives in a kingdom that has fallen. The Pale King is gone. The infection has spread. The great cities are empty, their inhabitants dead or transformed into mindless husks. The roads are broken, the institutions collapsed, the civilization that had seemed eternal reduced to ruins and memories, and the dreamer still sleep. The night's journey through Hallownest is a journey of discovery. It learns the history of the kingdom, pieces together the story of the vessels, comes to understand what it is and why it was created, and eventually it learns about the dreamers, about the seals they maintain, about the role they play in keeping the radiance contained. To reach the Black Egg Temple and confront the Hollow Knight, the knight must break those seals, It must kill the dreamers. This is one of the most morally complex requirements in the game. The dreamers are not villains. They are not enemies in any conventional sense. They are beings who sacrificed everything to protect Hallownest, who entered eternal sleep so that others might live, and the night must end that sleep, must kill them in their dreams, must break the seals they gave their lives to maintain. The night does not do this out of malice, it does it out of necessity. The seals must break because the hollow night must be reached. The hollow night must be reached because the radiance must be stopped. The radiance must be stopped because the infection is spreading, because the kingdom is dying, because the original solution has failed and a new one must be found. But necessity does not erase the tragedy. The dreamers gave everything, and their reward is to be killed by a being that shares their nature, a vessel like the one they sacrificed themselves to protect. There is a terrible irony in this, a cruelty that the universe seems to specialize in. The death of Monomon. The night reaches Monomon's archive through the fog canyon, navigating acid pools that glow with soft green light, passing umas that drift like thoughts through the misty air. The archive feels like a mind made physical. Chambers branching like neurons, knowledge preserved in tubes that line the walls like memories waiting to be accessed. Quirrell is there. Monomon's student, preserved through the long years by the mask she gave him, has returned to his teacher's side. The mask on his back pulses faintly, recognizing the place where it was made, the being who created it. Quirrell speaks of feeling drawn here, of memories returning, of finally understanding why he carried this burden across so many years. Together they face Umu, the massive jellyfish guardian that protects Monomon's chamber. The creature's electric membrane repels the night's attacks, but Quirrell strikes from behind, creating openings, working in concert with the night as though they had trained together for years. This is Monomon's design. She knew her seal would need to be broken someday, and she arranged for her student to be the key. When Umu falls, the path to Monomon opens. She floats in her tank, still and peaceful, her form pulsing gently with the rhythm of dreams. Quirrell stands beside the night, ready for what comes next. "I have no more words to share," he says, "only gratitude for this kingdom and for you." When the night uses the dream nail on Monomon, it enters her dream. The space within is abstract, filled with floating symbols and half-formed thoughts, the architecture of a mind devoted to understanding. Monomon's voice echoes, "Remember, I am Seal, I am Dreamer." Even in death, she teaches, explaining what she is, what her role has been, what breaking her seal will mean. The seal breaks, 1/3 of the barrier falls, and Monomon, after centuries of dreaming, finally stops. Quirrell remains behind. His purpose is fulfilled. The mask's power fades. He is finally, fully himself, but that self is old, tired, and ready to rest. His final appearance is at the blue lake, sitting at the water's edge, looking out over the still surface. His nail rests beside him, abandoned. He speaks of feeling complete, of having fulfilled his purpose, of being ready for whatever comes next. "Again we meet, my short friend," he says. "Here at last I feel at peace." And then, if the night leaves and returns, Quirrell is gone. Only his nail remains, half buried in the sand at the water's edge. Let your breathing deepen as you consider Monomon's death, Quirrell's completion, the way endings can be gifts. Monomon planned this moment across centuries. She gave Quirrell the tools to help end her, trusted that he would know when the time was right, accepted that her eternal dream would someday need to stop. This is wisdom, knowing that nothing lasts forever, and making peace with that truth before it arrives. The death of Lurian. The night reaches Lurian's spire through the City of Tears, climbing the tallest structure in a city that has fallen silent. The rain still falls, as it always has, as it always will. The streets below are empty, the citizens gone, the shops and homes abandoned. But the spire still stands, and within it, Lurian still watches. The butler is there, old and patient, still serving his master after all these years. He does not fight the night. He does not try to prevent what is about to happen. He simply steps aside, perhaps understanding that his master's long watch is finally ending. Lurian's chamber is a place of quiet dignity. The watcher sleeps in his chair, facing the window, positioned as though he might wake at any moment and resume his vigil. Even in sleep he watches, even in dreams he serves. When the night uses the dream nail on Lurian, it enters his dream, and there, in the realm of his sleeping mind, it ends his existence. The seal breaks. Another third of the barrier falls, and Lurian, after centuries of watching, finally closes his eyes. What did Lurian dream of in all those years of sleeping? Did he dream of the Pale King, the master he served with such devotion? Did he dream of the city he watched, the citizens he protected, the streets he knew so well? Did he dream of a kingdom that still stood, a civilization that still thrived, a world where his vigilance still mattered? Or did he dream of nothing at all? Did his mind, after centuries of watching, finally find rest in the absence of anything to observe? The butler remains behind. His master is gone, but his service continues. He will maintain the spire, perhaps, until his own end comes. He will dust the chambers and tend the space, serving a memory as faithfully as he served the living being. This is devotion in its purest form, service that continues even when there is no one left to serve. Let your eyes grow heavy as you consider Lurian's death, the butler's continued service, the way devotion can outlast its object. Lurian gave his life to watching, and in the end he was watched over in return. His butler's faithfulness mirrors his own, a chain of service that extends beyond death, beyond sleep, beyond the boundaries of individual existence. The death of Hera. The night reaches Hera's chamber through Deepnest, navigating the dark and dangerous tunnels where spiders and other predators make their home. Deepnest is hostile territory, a place that does not welcome outsiders, a realm that still honors its sleeping queen. The creatures of Deepnest do not want the night to reach Hera. They fight to protect her, to preserve her sleep, to maintain the sacrifice she made for their sake. But the night presses on, driven by necessity, by the need to break the seals and reach the hollow night. Hera's chamber is deep in the heart of Deepnest, a place of webs and shadows, guarded by the most loyal of her subjects. She sleeps on a bed of silk, her form still and peaceful, her dreams unknown. When the night uses the dream nail on Hera, it enters her dream, and there, in the realm of her sleeping mind, it ends her existence. The seal breaks, the final third of the barrier falls, and Hera, after centuries of dreaming of the daughter she never knew, finally stops. Hornet is not present for her mother's death. She is elsewhere in Hallownest, pursuing her own mission, protecting the kingdom in her own way. But she knows what has happened. She knows that the seals have broken, that the dreamers have died, that the path to the Black Egg Temple is now open. And she knows that her mother's sacrifice, the bargain that brought Hornet into existence, has finally reached its conclusion. What does Hornet feel? Grief, certainly. Loss. The knowledge that the mother she never knew is now truly gone, that the dreams Hera dreamed of her daughter have ended. But perhaps also relief, perhaps also completion. Hera's sacrifice was always going to end this way. The seals were always going to break. The dreamers were always going to die. At least now it's over. At least now Hera can rest, truly rest, without the burden of maintaining a seal that was already failing. Let your body sink deeper into rest as you consider Hera's death, Hornet's loss, the way love can persist even when the one who loves is gone. Hera gave up her waking life for the chance to have a daughter. She never got to raise that daughter, never got to know her, never got to see what she would become. But Hornet exists. Hornet lives. Hornet carries her mother's legacy in every breath, every movement, every moment of fierce determination. That is Hera's victory, not the seal she maintained, which is now broken, not the kingdom she helped protect, which has now fallen, but the daughter she created, who still lives, who still fights, who still carries the love that brought her into being. The seals broken. With all three dreamers dead, the seals on the Black Egg Temple dissolve. If you return to the temple entrance, you can see the change. Where once three masks glowed on the door, symbols of the sleeping minds that held it shut, now there is only darkness. The masks have faded, the barrier has fallen, the door opens. Inside the temple, the Hollow Knight waits. It hangs in chains, massive and broken, infection leaking from cracks in its shell. It has been fighting the radiance for centuries, losing slowly, suffering constantly. The dreamer's seals kept the temple closed, kept anyone from reaching this chamber, kept the battle contained, even as it was being lost. Now the knight can enter, it can face its sibling, the chosen vessel, the being that was supposed to be perfect but wasn't. It can witness what centuries of containment have done, how the Hollow Knight has been worn down, how the radiance has pressed against its prison until the walls began to crack. The confrontation that follows depends on the knight's choices. In one ending, the knight simply replaces the Hollow Knight, becoming the new vessel, the new container, the new seal. The cycle continues. The dreamer's sacrifice is renewed in a different form. In another ending, the knight enters the Hollow Knight's dream and faces the radiance directly. Here, in the realm of light and fury, the true battle takes place. The dreamer's seals kept this confrontation from happening for centuries. Now, with those seals broken, the knight can do what the Pale King's plan never allowed. Fight the radiance herself, not just contain her. The dreamers bought time for this moment. They held the line for centuries so that when the seals finally broke, there might be someone capable of finishing what they started. They could not defeat the radiance themselves. They could only wait and dream and hope that whoever came after would find a way. And someone did come. The knight emerged from the abyss, wandered back to Hallownest, broke the seals, and faced the god that the dreamers had held at bay for so long. Let your thoughts settle as you consider what the dreamers made possible. They did not save Hallownest. The kingdom fell anyway. But they gave it time. They gave it centuries. And in those centuries the knight was born, escaped, returned. Hornet grew into a warrior. Quirrell completed his journey. The the pieces assembled for an ending that the dreamers themselves would never see. That is not failure. That is the best anyone can do in a world where nothing lasts forever. To hold the line, to buy time, to trust that whoever comes after will find a way forward. The dream realm and its mysteries. To truly understand the dreamers, we must understand the realm they inhabited. The dream realm in Hollow Knight is not merely a metaphor or a psychological space. It is a genuine dimension, a place that exists alongside the physical world, accessible through certain means and inhabited by beings who exist only in the sleeping minds of others. The dream nail is the key to this realm. This ancient weapon, found in the resting grounds, allows its wielder to cut through the barrier between waking and dreaming. With it, the knight can enter the dreams of sleeping beings, can access memories preserved in the dream realm, can confront entities that exist only in the unconscious minds of others. The resting grounds themselves are significant. This is a place of burial and remembrance, where the dead of Hallownest were laid to rest, where their spirits might linger in the dream realm even after their bodies had decayed. The Seer, an elderly moth who tends this place, speaks of dreams and memories, of the old light that once guided her people, of the radiance who was forgotten but never truly gone. The moths were the original worshippers of the radiance. They existed in her light, shared her dreams, lived as extensions of her consciousness. When the Pale King came and offered individual awareness, the moths were the first to face the choice between collective unity and personal freedom. Most chose freedom, most forgot the radiance, but the Seer remembers. She is old, perhaps the oldest being still conscious in Hallownest, and she carries memories of a time before the Pale King, before the awakening, before the infection. She speaks of the radiance with a mixture of reverence and sorrow, acknowledging the goddess's power while recognizing the danger she represents. The dream realm is where the radiance truly exists. Her physical form, if she ever had one, is long gone. But in the dreams of those who remember her, in the unconscious minds of those she has infected, she persists. She's a being of pure thought, pure light, pure consciousness, and the dream realm is her natural habitat. This is why the dreamer's sacrifice was so significant. By entering eternal sleep, they placed themselves in the dream realm permanently. Their dreaming minds became barriers, walls of consciousness that blocked the radiance's influence, that prevented her from spreading through the dreams of others. They fought her on her own ground, in the realm where she was strongest, and they held her back through sheer force of will. For centuries the dreamers maintained this vigil. Their sleeping minds stood guard against the radiance's expansion, containing her within the hollow night, preventing her from reaching out to infect new victims. It was a battle fought in silence, in the spaces between thoughts, in the quiet depths of unconscious minds, and they won. For centuries they won. The infection spread slowly, yes, but it spread far more slowly than it would have without the dreamer's intervention. These seals held, the barriers persisted, the radiance was contained, if not defeated. Let your mind drift into the spaces between thoughts as you consider the dream realm, that strange dimension where consciousness creates reality, where sleeping minds can build walls and wage wars. Every night you visit a place not unlike this realm. Every night your mind creates worlds that feel real in the moment, that obey their own strange logic, that fade upon waking like mist in morning light. The dreamers lived in such a place forever. They made it their home, their battlefield, their prison, and in doing so, they held back a god. The Pale King's burden. The Pale King asked three beings to sacrifice their waking lives for his plan, but there is a question that haunts the edges of this story. Did he tell them the truth? In a memory accessible through the dream realm, we see the moment the Hollow Knight was chosen. We see it climbing from the abyss, reaching the platform where the Pale King waited, and we see it look back, just for a moment, just a glance, but it looked back at the siblings it was leaving behind. A truly hollow being would not look back. A truly empty vessel would have no curiosity about what it was leaving. But the Hollow Knight looked back, and the Pale King saw it. He must have seen it, and he proceeded anyway. The dreamers agreed to sleep forever, believing they were sealing away the radiance permanently. They believed their sacrifice would save the kingdom. They didn't know that the Hollow Knight was already compromised, that the containment was already imperfect, that their eternal sleep would buy time but not victory. The Pale King's lament found in the White Palace suggests he understood. No cost too great, no mind to think, no will to break, no voice to cry suffering. These were the requirements for a perfect vessel. The Hollow Knight met none of them, not truly. And the Pale King knew. When the infection began to spread again, the Pale King retreated to his White Palace and eventually vanished. His final fate is unknown. Some say guilt consumed him, others say he fled. The White Palace itself shifted into the dream realm, becoming a memory, a ghost, accessible only through the most obscure paths. He left the dreamers to their eternal sleep. He left the Hollow Knight to its endless torment. He left the kingdom he had built to crumble. Let your body grow heavier as you consider this burden, the weight of decisions made in desperation. The Pale King was not evil. He was trying to save everything he had built, but he asked others to pay prices for a plan he suspected might fail. And when it did fail, he was not there to face the consequences. The dreamers faced them instead. They slept on, maintaining seals for a containment that was already cracking, dreaming their endless dreams while the kingdom above them fell to ruin. The legacy of the dreamers. The dreamers are dead now. Their seals are broken. Their eternal sleep has ended. But their legacy persists in ways both obvious and subtle. Monomon's legacy is knowledge. Her archives still stand, preserved against the decay that has claimed so much of Hallownest. The information she gathered, the understanding she cultivated, the wisdom she accumulated over a lifetime of study, all of it remains, waiting for someone to find it, to learn from it, to carry it forward into whatever future awaits. Quirrell carries part of this legacy. Though he is gone now, he spent his final days rediscovering the kingdom, piecing together memories, understanding what had happened and why. He was Monomon's student to the end, learning even as he prepared to die. Lurian's legacy is devotion. His butler still serves, maintaining the spire, honouring the memory of a master who gave everything for the kingdom he loved. This chain of service, this commitment to something larger than oneself, persists even in the ruins of Hallownest. And perhaps Lurian's legacy extends further. Perhaps every being who has ever served a cause they believed in, who has ever watched over something they loved, who has ever given themselves to something larger than their own existence, carries a piece of what Lurian represented. Hera's legacy is Hornet, the daughter she bargained for, the child she never knew, the warrior who carries her mother's strength and her mother's love. Hornet is the most tangible legacy of any of the dreamers, a living being who exists because Hera was willing to sacrifice everything for the chance to create her. Hornet protects Hallownest in her own way. She guards the kingdom's secrets, challenges those who would disturb its rest, fights to preserve what remains of the civilization her mother helped to seal. She is fierce and determined, quick and deadly, everything her mother might have hoped she would become, and she carries Hera's love, not consciously perhaps. Hornet never knew her mother, never felt her embrace, never heard her voice, but a love that brought her into existence persists in her very being. Every breath Hornet takes is a testament to Hera's sacrifice. Every moment of her existence is proof that Hera's bargain was worth making. The dreamers are gone, but they are not forgotten. Their sacrifice mattered, even if it was not permanent. Their devotion persisted even when the cause they served began to fail. Their love endured, even beyond the boundaries of sleep and waking. This is the nature of legacy. It is not about permanence. It is not about success. It is about the ripples we create, the influences we leave behind, the ways our existence touches others, even after we are gone. Let your thoughts settle as you consider legacy, the way our actions persist beyond our existence, the way love and devotion and knowledge can outlast the beings who embodied them. The dreamers are dead, but they are not gone. They live on in the archives Monomon preserved, in the devotion Lurian inspired, in the daughter Hera created, and perhaps they live on in you too, in the way you think about sacrifice, about devotion, about the things that are worth giving everything for. The dreamer's story is part of you now, a small piece of their legacy carried forward into whatever future awaits. The meaning of eternal sleep. What does it mean to sleep forever? The dreamers chose this fate, accepted it willingly, embraced it as the price of saving what they loved. But what did they actually experience? Sleep in our world is a temporary state. We close our eyes, we dream, we wake. The cycle repeats, night after night, a rhythm as natural as breathing. But the dreamers broke this cycle. They closed their eyes and never opened them again. They entered a sleep that had no morning, a dream that had no waking. In some ways, this is like death. The dreamers' waking selves ceased to exist the moment they entered eternal sleep. The beings who had lived and thought and felt, who had made decisions and formed relationships and accumulated experiences, those beings ended. What remained was something else, something that dreamed without waking, that existed without living, that persisted without changing. But in other ways, eternal sleep is different from death. The dreamers' minds continue to function, their dreams continue to unfold. They experience something, even if that something was radically different from waking experience. They were not gone, not entirely. They were transformed, translated into a different mode of existence, preserved in a state that was neither life nor death but something in between. This liminal existence has its own kind of beauty. The dreamers escape the suffering that comes with waking life. They escape the fear of death, the pain of loss, the anxiety of uncertainty. In their eternal dreams, they found a kind of peace that waking beings can only imagine. But they also lost something. They lost the possibility of change, of growth, of new experiences. Their dreams, however beautiful, were static. They could not learn new things, form new relationships, make new choices. They were frozen, preserved, locked in a state that would never evolve. Is this a good trade? Is eternal peace worth the loss of possibility? The dreamers thought so, or at least they were willing to make the trade for the sake of what they loved. But the question remains open, an invitation to consider what we value, what we would sacrifice, what kind of existence we would choose if we had the choice. Let your body relax completely as you consider the nature of sleep, the way it offers rest and peace, the way it suspends the worries and anxieties of waking life. Tonight, you will sleep, and tomorrow, you will wake. This cycle is a gift, a rhythm that allows for both rest and renewal, both peace and possibility. The dreamers gave up this cycle. They chose rest without renewal, peace without possibility, and in doing so, they saved a kingdom, at least for a time. The radiance's perspective. We've spoken much of the dreamers and their sacrifice, of the Pale King and his plan, of the kingdom they tried to save. But what of the radiance? What of the god they sought to contain? The radiance is not evil, not in any simple sense. She is ancient, yes. She is powerful. She is dangerous. But she's also a being who was wronged, who was forgotten, who was cast aside by the very creatures she had sustained for eons. Before the Pale King, the radiance was everything to the bugs of this land. She was their light, their guide, their connection to each other and to something larger than themselves. They existed in her glow, shared her dreams, lived as part of a collective consciousness that knew no loneliness, no isolation, no existential uncertainty. And then the Pale King came, and they forgot her. Imagine being a god whose power depends on worship, on remembrance, on the minds that hold your image. Imagine watching as those minds turn away, one by one, forgetting you, abandoning you, leaving you to fade into nothing. Imagine the desperation, the fury, the absolute refusal to accept oblivion. The radiance's infection is not an attack. It is a cry for help. It is a desperate attempt to be remembered, to be acknowledged, to exist in the minds that once sustained her. She reaches out through dreams because dreams are all she has left. She burns away individual consciousness because individual consciousness is what replaced her. This does not excuse the suffering she causes. The infected bugs of Hallownest are victims, their minds consumed by a light they never asked for, their selves erased by a god they never worshipped. The radiance's desperation does not justify the destruction she wreaks, but it does complicate the story. The dreamers sacrificed themselves to contain a being who was, in her own way, also a victim. The Pale King's plan was designed to imprison a god who had been wronged by his very existence. The conflict at the heart of Hollow Knight is not between good and evil, but between incompatible ways of being, between individual consciousness and collective unity, between the Pale King's light and the radiance's blaze. The dreamers stood in the middle of this conflict. They chose the Pale King's side, chose individual consciousness, chose to sacrifice themselves so that others might continue to think their own thoughts and dream their own dreams. But in doing so, they also chose to imprison a being who had done nothing wrong except exist, except want to be remembered, except refuse to fade quietly into oblivion. Let your mind rest with this complexity as you drift towards sleep. The world is rarely simple. Conflicts are rarely between pure good and pure evil. The dreamers made a choice, and that choice had consequences for beings on all sides of the conflict. They were heroes, yes, but they were also participants in a tragedy that had no villains, only victims. The final sleep. And now, as we near the end of our journey through the lore of the dreamers, let us consider what their story means, not just for the world of Hollow Night, but for us, here, now, drifting toward our own sleep. The dreamers chose to sacrifice their waking lives for something they believed in. Monomon believed in knowledge, in the preservation of understanding, in the idea that consciousness itself was worth protecting. Lurian believed in service, in devotion, in the quiet dignity of giving oneself to a cause larger than oneself. Hera believed in love, in creation, in the fierce determination to bring new life into the world, even at the cost of her own. These are not abstract values. They are the things that give life meaning: knowledge, devotion, love. The dreamers embodied these values so completely that they were willing to die for them, or rather, to enter a state that was neither life nor death, to dream forever in service of what they believed. And their sacrifice mattered. Not because it was permanent, not because it succeeded in the way they hoped, but because it bought time. It held the line. It preserved possibilities that would otherwise have been lost. This is what sacrifice does. It creates space. It buys time. It holds back the darkness long enough for something else to emerge, for new solutions to be found, for hope to persist even in the face of overwhelming odds. The dreamers did not save Hallownest. The kingdom fell anyway, but they gave it time, and in that time, things happened. The night emerged from the abyss. Hornet grew into a warrior. Quirrell completed his journey. Stories unfolded that would not have been possible if the Radiance had won immediately. That is not nothing. That is not failure. That is the best that anyone can do in a world where nothing lasts forever. And now, as you drift toward your own sleep, consider what you would sacrifice for. What do you believe in so completely that you would give everything for it? What values define your existence, give your life meaning, make you who you are? You don't have to answer tonight. You don't have to know. The questions themselves are enough, invitations to reflection, prompts for the kind of deep thinking that often happens best in the quiet moments, before sleep. The dreamers found their answers. They knew what they believed in, what they would sacrifice for, what made their existence meaningful. And when the time came, they acted on that knowledge, entering eternal sleep with the certainty that their sacrifice mattered. Tonight you will sleep too. Not forever, not eternally, but for a few hours, a brief respite from the demands of waking life. And tomorrow you will wake, and the cycle will continue, and you will have another chance to discover what you believe in, what you would sacrifice for, what makes your existence meaningful. The dreamer's story is over. Their seals are broken. Their eternal sleep has ended. But their legacy persists in the knowledge they preserved, in the devotion they inspired, in the love they embodied, and perhaps in some small way, their legacy persists in you too, in the way you think about sacrifice, about meaning, about the things that are worth giving everything for. Sleep now, weary traveller. The dreamers have shown you what eternal sleep looks like. But your sleep is different. Your sleep is temporary, restorative, a gift that allows for both rest and renewal. Close your eyes. Let your breathing slow. Let your thoughts drift like the jellyfish in Fog Canyon, gentle and unhurried, moving through the mist without destination. The dreamers are at peace now. Their long vigil is over. Their sacrifice is complete. And you are at peace too, or approaching it, drifting toward the sleep that waits for you, the rest you have earned, the dreams that may come or may not, but either way will pass. Tomorrow you will wake, Tomorrow you will continue your own journey, make your own choices, discover your own meaning. But tonight, there is only rest, only peace, only the gentle darkness of sleep closing around you like a blanket, warm and safe and soft. The dreamers dreamed forever. You will dream for just a few hours, but in those hours you will find the same peace they found, the same rest, the same release from the demands of waking life. Sleep well, weary traveller. The dreamers watch over you in their own way, from whatever realm they now inhabit. Their sacrifice created space for you to exist, to think, to dream your own dreams. Honour that sacrifice by resting well, by finding peace, by letting go of the day's worries and drifting into the gentle darkness that awaits. The story is told, the journey is complete, the night is yours to rest in. Sleep now, dream gently. And when you wake, carry a piece of the dreamer's legacy with you. The knowledge that sacrifice matters, the devotion that gives life meaning, the love that persists even beyond the boundaries of sleep and waking. Good night. The masks of the dreamers. Each of the 3 dreamers wears a mask. These are not mere decorations or symbols of office. They are artifacts of power, objects that carry significance beyond their physical form. Understanding the masks helps us understand the dreamers themselves and the role they play in the sealing of the radiance. Masks in Hallownest are more than face coverings. They are identities. They are roles. They are the faces that beings present to the world, the selves they choose to embody. The Pale King himself wore a mask, as did many of the higher beings who shaped the kingdom's history. To wear a mask is to become something, to take on a purpose, to define oneself in relation to a larger story. Monomon's mask is perhaps the most significant of the 3. It is the mask she gave to Quirrell, the artifact that preserved him through the long years since the sealing. This mask carried something of Monomon herself, a piece of her consciousness, a fragment of her identity. When Quirrell wore it, he was connected to his teacher in ways that transcended ordinary memory. The mask also suppressed Quirrell's memories. He wandered Hallownest without fully understanding who he was or why he had returned. The mask protected him, yes, but it also limited him, keeping him in a state of partial awareness until the time came for him to fulfill his purpose. This is a strange kind of gift. Monomon gave Quirrell preservation, but she also gave him confusion. She kept him alive, but she also kept him incomplete. Only when he returned to her archive, only when he stood before her sleeping form, did the mask's power begin to fade, allowing Quirrell to become fully himself again. Perhaps this was intentional. Perhaps Monomon knew that Quirrell would need to be protected from the full weight of his memories, that the knowledge of what had happened to Hallownest would be too much to bear without the buffer of partial forgetting. Or perhaps the mask's effects were simply a side effect of its preserving power, an unintended consequence of the magic that kept Quirrell alive. Either way, the mask represents something important about Monomon. She planned ahead. She prepared for contingencies. She left tools and pathways for those who would come after her, even knowing that she would never see how they were used. Lurian's mask is different. It is the face of the Watcher, the symbol of his role, the identity he took on when he devoted himself to observing the City of Tears. When we see Lurian in his chamber, his mask is part of him, inseparable from the being who wears it. The mask represents Lurian's devotion. It is the face he chose to present to the world, the self he decided to become. By wearing it, he declared himself a watcher, a servant, a being whose purpose was to observe and protect. The mask made this declaration permanent, fixed his identity in a way that could not be undone. When Lurian dies, his mask remains. It is one of the items the knight can collect, a physical reminder of the dreamer who wore it. In this way, Lurian's identity persists even after his death. The mask carries his legacy, his devotion, his commitment to watching over what he loved. Hera's mask is the face of the beast. It is fierce and predatory, reflecting the nature of the queen who wore it. Hera was not a gentle ruler. She was strong, cunning, willing to do whatever was necessary to protect her people. Her mask embodies these qualities, presenting a face that warns enemies and reassures allies. But the mask also hides something. Behind the fierce exterior, Hera was a mother. She bargained for a child, sacrificed her waking life for the chance to create new life. The mask of the beast conceals the love that drove her, the tenderness that existed alongside her ferocity. This is the nature of masks. They reveal and conceal simultaneously. They present one face to the world while hiding another. The dreamer's masks show us who they chose to be, but they also hint at the complexities beneath, the motivations and emotions that drove their choices. Let your thoughts drift as you consider masks, the faces we present to the world, the identities we choose to embody. We all wear masks of a sort. We all decide how to present ourselves, what aspects of our nature to reveal, what aspects to conceal. The dreamer's masks are simply more literal versions of what we all do every day, and perhaps in sleep we remove our masks. Perhaps in dreams we become more fully ourselves, freed from the identities we maintain in waking life. The dreamers entered eternal sleep, eternal dreaming. Perhaps in that state they finally set aside their masks and became something truer, something more essential, something that transcended the roles they had played in waking life. The architecture of sacrifice. The places where the dreamers sleep are not random. Each location was chosen with care, designed to serve the purpose of the ceiling, constructed to maintain the barriers that would keep the radiance contained. Monomon sleeps in the teacher's archives deep in the fog canyon. This location is significant for several reasons. The fog canyon is isolated, difficult to reach, protected by acid pools and the strange creatures that drift through its misty air. Anyone seeking to break Monomon's seal would have to navigate these hazards, buying time for the other seals to hold. But the archives are also a place of knowledge, a repository of understanding that Monomon spent her life building. By sleeping here, Monomon ensured that her sacrifice was connected to her life's work. Her eternal dream unfolds in the place where she accumulated wisdom, surrounded by the knowledge she valued above all else. The architecture of the archives reflects this purpose. The chambers are designed for preservation, for study, for the careful accumulation of understanding. Even in ruin, even after centuries of neglect, the archives retain their essential character. They are a monument to Monomon's values, a physical expression of what she believed in. Lurian sleeps in his spire, the tallest structure in the City of Tears. This location is also significant. The spire rises above the city, offering a view of everything below. From here, Lurian could watch over the citizens he loved, observe the streets he knew so well, maintain the vigilance that defined his existence. By sleeping in the spire, Lurian ensured that his sacrifice was connected to his purpose. His eternal dream unfolds in the place where he watched, surrounded by the city he devoted himself to protecting. Even in sleep he maintains his vigil, his dreaming mind turned toward the streets below. The architecture of the spire reflects this purpose. It is tall and narrow, designed for observation rather than habitation. The windows face outward, offering views in every direction. Even the chamber where Lurian sleeps is positioned to face the city, as though he might wake at any moment and resume his watch. Hera sleeps in the heart of Deepnest, in a chamber guarded by the creatures who still honour their queen. This location is significant for different reasons. Deepnest is dangerous, hostile to outsiders, filled with predators who would kill anyone who ventured too deep. By sleeping here, Hera ensured that her seal would be protected by the very nature of her realm. But Deepnest is also Hera's home, the place where she ruled, the realm she loved. By sleeping here, she remained connected to her people, her territory, her identity as the beast. Her eternal dream unfolds in the place where she was queen, surrounded by the subjects who still serve her memory. The architecture of Hera's chamber reflects this purpose. It is woven from silk, constructed by the spiders who serve her, a testament to the craftsmanship of Deepnest. The chamber is both a bedroom and a throne room, a place of rest and a place of power. These three locations form a triangle around the Black Egg Temple, Monomon to the west, Lurian to the east, Hera to the south. Their sleeping minds create barriers that converge on the temple, that reinforce each other, that maintain the ceiling through their combined power. This is the architecture of sacrifice, not just the physical structures where the dreamers sleep, but the larger pattern they form, the way their locations relate to each other and to the temple they protect. The Pale King designed this system with care, positioning each dreamer to maximize the effectiveness of the ceiling. Let your body sink deeper into rest as you consider architecture, the way spaces are designed for purposes, the way physical structures can embody meaning. The places where the dreamers sleep are not just locations, they are expressions of who the dreamers were, what they valued, what they sacrificed themselves for. And perhaps the place where you sleep is similar. Perhaps your bedroom, your bed, your corner of the world reflects something about who you are, what you value, what gives your life meaning. We all create spaces that embody our identities, that express our purposes, that serve as physical manifestations of our inner selves. The dreams within dreams, when the night uses the dream nail on the dreamers, it enters their dreams. But what does it find there? What do the dreamers dream of after centuries of sleeping? The game shows us only fragments, brief glimpses of the dreamers' inner worlds, moments of contact before the seals break and the dreamers die. But these fragments are revealing, hinting at the nature of eternal dreaming, the way consciousness transforms when it's no longer anchored to waking life. Monomon's dream is a place of knowledge. The night enters a space that feels like the archives, but different, more abstract, more essential. The physical details are blurred, but the sense of accumulated understanding remains. This is what Monomon's mind has become after centuries of dreaming. A repository of wisdom, stripped of physical form, existing as pure thought. In this dream, Monomon speaks. She acknowledges the night, recognizes what is about to happen, accepts her ending with the same intellectual clarity that defined her waking life. She does not fight. She does not resist. She simply observes, understands, and lets go. This is the final lesson Monomon teaches, that endings can be accepted. That understanding includes knowing when to stop, that the greatest wisdom is the wisdom of release. Lurian's dream is a place of watching. The night enters a space that feels like the spire but transformed. The city below is visible, but it is not the ruined city of tears. It is the city as Lurian remembers it, as he wishes it to be, as it exists in his eternal dream. The streets are full of citizens. The rain falls gently. Everything is peaceful, orderly, worthy of protection. In this dream, Lurian does not speak. He simply watches, as he has always watched, as he will watch until the moment of his ending. His devotion persists even in death, his vigilance unbroken even as the seal breaks. This is the final expression of Lurian's nature. That watching is not just an action but an identity. That devotion does not end with death. That some beings are so completely defined by their purpose that they cannot exist apart from it. Hera's dream is harder to read. The night enters a space that feels like deepness, but darker, more primal, more connected to the instincts that drive the creatures of that realm. This is Hera's inner world, the beast beneath the queen, the predator beneath the mother. But there are hints of something else, glimpses of a smaller figure, a child, a daughter. Hera's dream includes Hornet, or at least the idea of Hornet, the hope that drove her sacrifice. Even in her most primal state, Hera dreams of the child she created, the love that made her willing to sleep forever. This is the final revelation of Hera's nature. That beneath the ferocity, beneath the predatory instincts, there is love. That the beast is also a mother. That the fiercest creatures are often the most devoted to what they love. Let your mind drift through these dream spaces as you approach your own sleep. The dreamer's dreams are not so different from our own. They are shaped by who we are, what we value, what we fear and hope and love. In sleep, our minds create worlds that reflect our inner selves, that express our deepest nature, that reveal what we truly are beneath the masks we wear in waking life. Tonight, you will dream. Perhaps you will dream of knowledge, like Monomon. Perhaps you will dream of watching over something you love, like Lurian. Perhaps you will dream of creation, of love, of the fierce devotion that drives us to sacrifice for what we care about, like Hera. Whatever you dream, it will be yours. A reflection of who you are, what you value, what gives your life meaning. The dreamer's dreams lasted forever. Yours will last only a few hours. But in those hours, you will visit the same kind of space they inhabited, the realm where consciousness creates reality, where the mind is free to express its truest self. The weight of centuries. The dreamer slept for a very long time, centuries at least, perhaps longer. Time moves strangely in the dream realm, and the game never gives us a precise count of the years that passed between the sealing and the night's arrival. But we can see the effects of that time. Hallownest has fallen into ruin. The great cities are empty, the roads are broken, the institutions that once governed the kingdom have collapsed. The Pale King is gone. The infection has spread, slowly but steadily, despite the dreamer's seals. What did the dreamers experience during all those years? Did they feel the passage of time? Did they know that centuries were passing? That the kingdom they sacrificed themselves for was crumbling? That their seals were holding but the primary containment was failing? The game suggests that the dreamers were aware, at least partially. When the night enters their dreams, they seem to recognize what is happening, to understand that the end has come. This implies that they were not entirely unconscious, not entirely cut off from the world they had left behind. Perhaps they felt the infection spreading. Perhaps they sense the hollow night's weakening, the radiance's growing strength, the slow erosion of everything they had sacrificed to protect. Perhaps they dreamed of the kingdom's fall, watching helplessly as their sacrifice proved insufficient, as the solution they had given everything for began to fail. This is a terrible thought. To sleep forever is one thing. To sleep forever while knowing that your sacrifice is failing, that the cause you gave everything for is being lost, that the kingdom you loved is crumbling into ruin, that is something else entirely. But perhaps the dreamers found peace anyway. Perhaps they accepted that their sacrifice was not permanent, that nothing is permanent, that even the best solutions are temporary. Perhaps they understood that buying time was still valuable, that holding the line still mattered, that their centuries of dreaming had preserved possibilities that would otherwise have been lost. Or perhaps they simply dreamed, lost in their own inner worlds, unaware of the passage of time, experiencing their eternal sleep as a single endless moment rather than a succession of centuries. The dream realm does not follow the rules of physical time. What feels like years in a dream might be only moments in waking life, and vice versa. Let your body relax completely as you consider the weight of time, the way it passes differently in sleep than in waking, the way dreams can compress or expand our experience of duration. Tonight, you will sleep for a few hours, but in those hours you might dream of years, of lifetimes, of eternities. The mind is not bound by the clock. In sleep, we are free to experience time in whatever way our unconscious chooses. The dreamers experience centuries of dreaming. You will experience only a few hours, but in those hours you might find the same kind of timelessness they found, the same release from the tyranny of the clock, the same freedom to exist outside the normal flow of moments. The communion of sleepers, there is a sense in which all sleepers are connected. When we sleep, we enter a realm that is shared, a dimension of consciousness that transcends individual minds. The dream realm in Hollow Knight is a literal expression of this idea, a place where sleeping minds can meet, interact, influence each other. The dreamers were connected to each other through this realm. Their sleeping minds formed a network, a web of consciousness that maintained the seals on the Black Egg Temple. They were not alone in their eternal sleep. They were together in a way that transcended physical separation. This communion of sleepers is one of the most beautiful aspects of the dreamer's sacrifice. They gave up their waking lives. Yes, they gave up the ability to interact with the physical world, to see and touch and speak, but they gained something in return, a connection to each other that was deeper than any waking relationship, a shared purpose that bound them together across the boundaries of individual consciousness. Monomon, Lurian and Hera were very different beings. They came from different parts of Hallownest, had different values, made their sacrifices for different reasons. In waking life, they might never have been friends. They might never have understood each other, might never have found common ground. But in sleep, they were united. Their dreams converged on the same purpose. Their minds worked together to maintain the same seals. Their sacrifices served the same cause. The differences that might have divided them in waking life became irrelevant in the dream realm. What mattered was not who they were, but what they did. And what they did together. This is the power of shared purpose. It can unite beings who have nothing else in common, can create bonds that transcend individual differences, can forge connections that would be impossible in ordinary circumstances. The dreamers found this power in their eternal sleep, discovered a communion that their waking selves might never have achieved, and perhaps we find something similar in our own sleep. When we dream, we enter a realm that is shared by all dreamers, a dimension of consciousness that connects us to everyone who has ever slept, who is sleeping now, who will sleep in the future. We're not alone in our dreams. We are part of a vast communion of sleepers, a network of unconscious minds that spans the world and stretches across time. Let your mind rest in this communion as you drift towards sleep. You're not alone. You're connected to everyone who sleeps, everyone who dreams, everyone who has ever closed their eyes and entered the realm of unconscious experience. The dreamers are part of this communion, and so are you. Tonight, as you sleep, you join a community that transcends the boundaries of individual existence. You become part of something larger than yourself, a shared experience of rest and dreaming that connects you to all of humanity, to all of consciousness, to the very fabric of existence itself. This is the gift of sleep, not just rest, not just renewal, but connection. The knowledge that we are not alone, that our dreams are part of a larger tapestry, that our unconscious minds are woven into a web of consciousness that spans the universe. The dreamers understood this. They entered eternal sleep knowing that they would be connected to each other, that their sacrifice would be shared, that they would not face the endless dream alone. And in that knowledge, they found the courage to close their eyes and never open them again. You can find the same courage tonight, not for eternal sleep, but for the temporary rest that awaits you. Close your eyes knowing that you're not alone, that you're connected to all sleepers, that your dreams are part of a larger story. Sleep well, weary traveller. The dreamers watch over you. The communion of sleepers welcomes you. The realm of dreams awaits. Good night. The Seer and the Old Light. In the resting grounds where the dead of Hallownest were laid to rest, an elderly moth tends the graves and speaks of dreams. The Seer is old, perhaps the oldest conscious being still awake in Hallownest. She remembers the radiance, not as a threat to be contained, but as a goddess to be worshipped. She remembers the old light. Light, radiance, essence, she murmurs when you meet her. These words are deeply, deeply entwined. The Seer gives the night the dream nail, the ancient weapon that allows entry into the dreams of others. This is the tool that will break the dreamer's seals, that will allow access to their sleeping minds, that will ultimately enable the confrontation with the Radiance herself. Why does a moth, one of the Radiance's original worshippers, give the night the means to reach her goddess? The answer lies in the Seer's understanding of what the Radiance has become. She remembers the old light as warmth and connection. She sees the infection as corruption and madness. The goddess she worshipped and the plague that spreads through Hallownest are the same being, but transformed by centuries of imprisonment and rage. The folk of my tribe were born from a light, the Seer explains. Light similar to essence, similar to that powerful blade, though much brighter still. She speaks of the radiance with reverence, but also with sorrow. The goddess she loved is gone, replaced by something desperate and destructive. The Seer knows the sealing was not permanent. She knows the hollow night is failing. She gives the night the dream nail because she understands that something must change, that the current situation cannot continue, that a new solution must be found. As the night uses the dream nail to collect essence from defeated dream warriors and broken seals, the Seer grows weaker. She is connected to the dream realm in ways that drain her as the night's power grows. "I'm fading, I think," she says eventually, "my grip on this world. If the night collects enough essence, the Seer fades entirely." Her final words are peaceful. "It's so bright, so bright." She dissolves into the light she always remembered, the old light, the radiance as she was before imprisonment twisted her into something terrible. This is another kind of sacrifice. Not the dramatic, intentional sacrifice of the dreamers, but a gradual giving of self. The Seer does not choose to fade. It simply happens, a price paid for the power the dream nail provides, for the possibility of ending the conflict she has watched unfold across centuries. Let your thoughts settle as you consider the Seer, her memories, her connection to a time before the dreamers ever slept. She represents continuity, the thread that connects past to present. And in her fading she finds peace, returning to the light she always loved, even as that light has become something she can no longer recognize. The silence after. And now, at last, we come to the end. The dreamers are dead, their seals are broken. The Black Egg Temple stands open, waiting for whoever has the courage to enter. What comes next is another story, a tale of confrontation and choice, of endings and beginnings, of the night's final battle against the Radiance herself. But that story is not for tonight. Tonight, we rest with the dreamers, honouring their sacrifice, contemplating their legacy, letting their story settle into our minds like sediment in still water. The silence after the dreamer's death is profound. For centuries, their sleeping minds maintained a constant presence in the dream realm, a barrier against the Radiance's expansion, a wall of consciousness that held back the old light. Now that presence is gone. The barrier has fallen. The silence where their dreams once hummed is absolute. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is potential. Silence is the space where new sounds can emerge, where new stories can begin, where new dreams can take shape. The dreamer's silence is the space in which the night's story unfolds. Their sacrifice created the conditions for what comes next. The possibility of a different ending, a better solution, a future that their eternal sleep made possible. This is the nature of sacrifice. It creates space, it opens possibilities, it clears the ground for something new to grow. The dreamers did not know what would grow in the space they created. They could not predict the night's arrival, the breaking of the seals, the final confrontation with the Radiance. They simply made the sacrifice and trusted that something would emerge. And something did. The night emerged from the abyss. Hornet grew into a warrior. Quirrell completed his journey. The story continued, shaped by the dreamer's sacrifice, made possible by their eternal sleep. Tonight, as you drift toward your own sleep, consider the spaces you create, the silences you leave for others to fill, the possibilities you open by stepping back, by letting go, by trusting that something will emerge even if you cannot predict what it will be. We cannot control the future. We cannot know what will grow in the spaces we create. But we can create the spaces. We can make the sacrifices. We can trust that our contributions matter, even if we never see their fruits. The dreamers trusted. They closed their eyes and entered eternal sleep, not knowing what would come after, not knowing if their sacrifice would be enough, not knowing anything except that they had done what they could. And that was enough. That is always enough. To do what we can, to give what we have, to trust that our contributions matter, even when we cannot see how. Sleep now, weary traveller. The dreamer's story is told. Their sacrifice is honoured. Their legacy persists. And tomorrow, when you wake, you will continue your own story. You will make your own contributions. You will create your own spaces for something new to grow. But tonight, there is only rest, only peace, only the gentle darkness of sleep, welcoming you into its embrace. The dreamers dreamed forever. You will dream for just a few hours, but in those hours, you will find the same peace they found, the same rest, the same release. Close your eyes, let your breathing slow, let your thoughts drift away like clouds across a quiet sky. The story is complete. The night is yours. Sleep well,